Well, I always have tried to be a spiritual adventurer. I've always tried to be open to new possibilities and see faith not as a static point, but as something that involves growth, adventure, being transformed and open to God's leading. Now, that was the broad spectrum, but I also was responding to Rick Warren's A Purpose Driven Life. While the book has many good qualities to it, and of course, many churches felt that by having a 40 Days of Purpose group, everything would be solved in their congregation. I was inspired by a number of conversations I had with pastors and lay people who basically told me that some aspects of the theology of the book were troubling to them. Warren makes the comment that God plans every important event in your life without your input. That God's planned the DNA, your parents, your family of origin, the key events, and that all of them are, in quotes, Father filtered for your well-being, or at least as a challenge. And that seemed a bit strong to me. Could you speak about trauma as being caused directly by God? Is the future entirely in God's hands? Is abuse caused by God? And I wanted to imagine a more open universe in which what we did really matters, in which we can be agents in changing the world, in which we are basically God's companions in a holy adventure of healing this good earth. Well, I've been thinking about that, Doyle. Psalm 51 is key to a lot of people's Lenten lectionary readings. And part of the psalm really troubles me. It implies that we come to Lent almost seeing ourselves as evil, as without value. I was born in sin, there is no good in me. And I think those sort of messages, frankly, are harmful. I would rather see Lent rather than as a time of penitence and sort of beating our breasts about our own negativity. Lord knows there's plenty of it, by the way, as an opportunity to look at simplifying our lives so that we can truly celebrate the beauty of being alive today, of living on this good earth, getting rid of the detritus, cutting through the muck so we can truly say, this is a glorious day. So simplicity, changing our lifestyles, looking at the relationship between how we live and other people's brokenness, the justice of our activities. So I see it more as simplicity for the sake of celebration. Well, yeah, and I think that in many ways it's really a call to spiritual formation within our personal and our congregational lives. I suspect that Abraham and Sarah mulled over this invitation for quite a long time. I suspect they looked at their situation in life, they looked at their friendships, maybe their stocks, in our case livestock, and said, can we make this trip? And I suspect this voice was still insistent that yes, you should go, you should go. And I think Lent really begins with an adventure story, both of Abraham and Sarah and of Jesus going into the wilderness. If you look at the story of Jesus going into the wilderness, he doesn't go there really to get tempted by the devil or by his unconscious. He has a spiritual experience following his baptism of experiencing himself as God's beloved child and has a mission. And in Mark's gospel, Jesus goes forth saying, God's realm is near, believe the good news. And he goes out into the wilderness on what I'd call a retreat. And he probably walks a bit, travels a bit, he's on the move, and he's dealing with the wholeness of his life, of what he could do as God's beloved child, and the pitfalls of it. So I think Lent is really a wonderful time for just thinking of your life as moving ahead, of looking at what's keeping you from becoming God's beloved child in your time, what's keeping you from becoming a companion in God's vision of healing the earth. Yeah, I think, again, some of those old maxims that our parents told us and maybe had different understandings of them than we do now ought to be revived. I grew up with a refrigerator magnet on the door of the refrigerator that my mom put on it. Prayer changes things. Now, interestingly enough, that has a very large theological implication to it. It means the world's open. It means what we do matters. It means that God hasn't decided everything, because if God's decided everything, there's no reason to pray. We're just praying for our own sort of self-delusion if everything's decided, just to make us feel good. And I think that in many ways the adventure is that everything we do makes a difference. I like what Mother Teresa says, that our calling is to do something beautiful for God. And to me, that's really the heart of ethics. I think one of the things I hope they discover was, and of course an author, once you've written these words or once you've painted something or done a work of art, it belongs to the universe and it's out of your control. But my own intentionality was that people would look at their lives and say, I matter, and so does everyone else. What I do matters, and so do other people's behavior. There are always possibilities within what we think are dead ends. And I think that's important news right now in the United States and in the mainstream churches, which often feel themselves at dead ends, is that within the limitations there are still seeds of possibility. And if we try to be open to those possibilities and be open to our own agency, our own ability to change things, good things can happen, things we hadn't expected. Well, this Lent is a time of holiness and wholeness. So in the Lenten season, I invite you to look for the beauty in life, to find God in the walk that you have and the pilgrimage of each day, to let go of what keeps you from following God's vision, and to open new possibilities as you simply live so others may live as well. Blessings on your church.